Hello again, I hope you liked my one-person studio's new mascot and are ready for another Stream of Consciousness episode, because while I had plans to do an episode on how Salem and John aren't related because of their family symbols were vaguely similar, RT kinda beat me to the punch on that one, which hey, good for them, but did kinda leave me grasping at straws. For content, especially after the Son Goku episode already set me back a fair bit. I promise more Batclan content soon. But today I'd like to discuss with you the politics of one Ghira Belladonna, as it came up in a debate a few weeks ago which I found rather frustrating but did ultimately lead me to have some rather interesting musings on the matter. Because on the surface he looks very much like the standard or even stereotypical, peaceful advocate for social change, to the point where he gets angry at someone killing just to save his life. But based on some later decisions on his part, and also some varied statements both from him and Kali, I'm wondering how much of that was Ghira genuinely being angry and how much of it was him trying to be political but to the wrong crowd. Because yeah, getting angry at somebody who just saved your life from a lynch mob is not going to play well to a group of fauners who were also just attacked by that same lynch mob, but it would play very well in the sticks of human media, as arguing against violent protest or other actions along those lines with his own people would make Ghira look like the acceptable, stable, nice campaigner for faunus human rights, especially when contrasted against more pragmatic or say aggressive figures. Now, I would note that this strategy has sort of a mixed history with a lot of people, so I'm not saying it's the right strategy or the wrong strategy, just making an observation. But what is it that leads me to think that this might just be him being political, or at the very least exaggerating his already held peaceful stances for the purposes of politics and just not realizing when to play to which audience? Which, based on his speech at Kyokuana, I do think is reflected in canon. Well, it's a few things, and I'm going to start with the smallest and then escalate my point. First and foremost, there's Kali and Ghira's general perspective on what happened in Vale, which was far less horrified than you would expect given the context and their seemingly held beliefs. Because while Kali did say they were horrified by what they saw happening in Vale, she also followed it up immediately by saying the Kingdom of Vale wasn't perfect, and she mostly seems to frame her argument in the context of what happened having gone too far, as opposed to having an issue with the concept of violence itself. Meanwhile, Ghira didn't even weigh in on the situation and was revealed to have been primarily concerned with Blake's well-being over anything else. So yeah, obviously against attacking an academy, destroying global communication or mass civilian casualties with Grimm, but not seemingly that bothered with the concept of combat itself, which honestly makes a lot of sense given they did nothing to get Blake back from the White Fang and didn't seem to have an issue with her being a member of the organization. And given Blake's age and Ghira's relative political position, I highly doubt he couldn't get Blake back if he'd wanted to, with them only having expressed concern that she or the White Fang might end up going too far, which is always a good thing to worry about when it comes to warfare. And their acceptance of the White Fang didn't just extend to their own daughter, given the White Fang operated on the island itself, and that there doesn't seem to be anything odd about the Albanes visiting to exchange information. And we know from the Albanes themselves that the only reason they're able to do as much work as they did for Adam is because the CCT was down, meaning that there was no real information control or ability to control the information before that. Which means the baseless idea that Sienna also relied on information control to keep the peace can't slot into canon. Now, I've always felt that was kind of obvious, given if that had been the case, they would have done a whole hoist by your own petard thing for Sienna, but they never did that. In that same vein, they also never did a you created your own monster with Sienna and Adam either. Because in truth, his whole thing is just that he was a very good interpersonal liar and fooled a lot of people who knew him personally, or more thought they knew him personally. But back on topic. And to cap things off, there was Ghira's acknowledgement and respect for Sienna Khan and the fact that they ultimately did fight for the same thing regardless of the differences in politics. Where am I going with this? Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't even know if it was intended by the creators in this context, but I do think it adds an interesting bit of nuance if one wants to look at it that way. And I ultimately don't think that it contradicts anything established in canon because, again, I drew all this from canon itself. But, that's just me. Feel free to share your perspective in the comments. And as always, if you'd like to help out with my work, please consider swinging by my coffee either to commission some 3D art or just to make a donation. Or, if you want to, you could become a full-time patron. This will also grant you early access to previews, models, scripts, and more. Thanks for stopping by.